Okay, so Mr. Slavo's given us this research project. Let's look it over for a second. Okay, so if it's okay with everyone, I guess I'll facilitate the planning process.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So our first step is we have to figure out if our teacher has provided a task to our group, or do we need to define the task ourselves?
It looks like the teachers assigned us the tasks. We need to create and present a PowerPoint based on research of Kenny's inaugural address.
Okay, so we have the task. Our next step is to figure out what is the goal of this task. What's the content? What is our central thesis or argument? What do we need to decide before we split up and work on our subtasks?
Well, it looked like we need to explain the impacts of JFK's inaugural address had on American society at that time, but I'm not sure we know our thesis or our argument yet until we do our research, right?
Yeah, I think we need to gather research and then review it to figure out what our thesis is. But we also need to gather information about JFK himself and the time period during which he gave this speech. So I think we should do that.
Okay, so I guess from what I'm hearing, it might make sense for us to divide some of the work and then come back together to determine our thesis in a bit and not do that part separately. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then I guess we need to figure out what tasks we need to get done separately.
Well, it looks like to me the assignment lays out the things we need to do, the historical context, the formal reading, the rhetorical analysis, and then historical impact. So how about we each cover a part?
So you're talking about the group presentation requirements?
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, but how are we going to figure out the historical impact if without knowing like the context information first? I don't think we can do that.
Yeah, no. So I think that means we need to probably all kind of gather research or gather the research first to know what our thesis is going to be before we decide our thesis, even whether we do that on our own or as a group.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that approach. Maybe the person who is working on the speech section can also work on the rhetorical analysis and then set up the slides for the PowerPoint while the other two gather research to share.
Okay, that makes sense. So that means we would have two people working on gathering research and one picking a part of the speech to read, analyze for rhetoric, and then set up slides for that. Okay, so if that's what we're gonna do now, we just need to figure out who's gonna do what. So what are people's strengths or what do people wanna work on?
I would rather do the research. I'm not very good at memorizing things or presenting, if that's okay.
Okay.
I'd like to present the speech and begin to work on the slides. I feel comfortable presenting the speech to the class, but I'll need to check in with one of you guys about the rhetorical analysis.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Sean. We can do that.
So maybe you do research with me.
Yeah, I'll do research with you. Okay, so Sean, you'll do figuring out a part of the speech and starting to at least start analyzing its rhetoric and set up slides. And yeah, Jeff, you and I can do the research together. So before we split up though, how are we gonna share the work we do?
Well, I'll create the slide presentation and share it with you two.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll make a Google Doc, and that's where I'll put the research, and I'll share that with all of you.
Okay, we can put the research we find together there. That sounds good. So let's come back together in 30 minutes and share what we've got. And hopefully we can start to work on a thesis as a group then and cover the research we found.
Sounds good.
Cool. Sounds good.